If you are here live, please say hello in the chat. Let me know where you are watching from. Gertrude, great to have you here. And today we are talking about how to identify the source of your self-doubt and stress at work. So, you might be here because you're finding it difficult to make decisions at work. You might always be second guessing yourself. Or maybe you're constantly worried that you're not good enough or that you're going to make a mistake and fail, despite the fact that you're getting positive feedback. And perhaps, like many of my clients or people I work with, you might have trouble disconnecting from work at the end of the day. Those work worries follow you home. And you set such high expectations for yourself that you can't possibly meet them. Most of all, maybe you feel like you are riding an emotional roller coaster. 1 second you're up, 1 second you're down. Yet no one would ever be aware of this because so much of it is happening inside your own head. So if these signs resonate with you, let me know in the chat. And I see we have so many of you tuning in here today. Bridget from California, Catherine in Houston, Amber. Is everybody else able to hear me? Amber, I know you were saying the volume's not working. Let me try turning up. I turned up my volume here. I double checked that my mic was correctly plugged in before we started. So if you're having audio problems, please do let me know in the chat. I know there's a little bit of a delay here. And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and keep reading off. Sumbo from Nigeria, great to have you. Amber, sounds like the volume is working. Excellent. Hello from Pensacola, Turkey, wonderful. Saudi Arabia, great to have you. Okay, so if any of those signs I mentioned resonate with you, you are definitely in the right place today. And today's discussion is going to provide you with insights and a framework to help you identify the source of your self-doubt and stress at work, and one that can help guide you towards a healthier, more balanced work and life. And don't we all want and deserve more of that? So before we go on, let me introduce myself. You may be catching this live by chance, or you may be newer to my world. I am Melody Wilding. I am a professor of human behavior. I am an executive coach, and I am the best-selling author of a book called Trust Yourself. Stop overthinking and channel your emotions for success at work. If you have read the book, let me know in the chat. I always love hearing from you, and it's always an honor to know that you have dedicated your time to reading the book and to also know that it's been valuable to you. Nothing means more to an author than that. I'm also the creator of a program called Resilient, which is a first of its kind comprehensive program to help sensitive high achievers, people I call sensitive strivers, regain their confidence, master their emotions, and reach their full potential at work. And we're in an exciting time now because we're coming very close to the early enrollment launch of Resilient, which happens in just a few weeks now. So if you would like more information about that, there's a QR code here on the screen. You can take a picture of that with your phone, or you can head to melodywilding.com/resilient, where you can find all of the information you need. So again, if you're joining today, say hi in the chat. Always love to hear from you and where you are watching from. If you hear something today that resonates with you, I always like to say, please help your neighbors out. Please help your fellow community here out. Type it in the chat. I want this to be interactive in a conversation, so please share what is standing out to you, what your takeaways are, and even questions you have. Okay, perfect. I can't see your name, but someone on LinkedIn was saying we started a book club. Six and Flow and Trust Yourself was our first read. That means the world. And if you want to start a book club either with your friends or you want to start one internally at your company, reach out to me. Please email me or DM me. We have a book club discussion guide that I'm more than happy to send you. Okay, so you heard me mention that term sensitive strivers a minute ago. Now, I have been coaching these people for over 10 years now. And that term sensitive strivers means that you are a high achiever. You are someone who is driven. You care a lot about your work, but you are also more sensitive to your own emotions and the world around you. So you are driven to succeed. You may put a lot of pressure on yourself to succeed, but because you process information more deeply than other people, you're also more susceptible to downsides like stress, emotional overwhelm, overthinking. So I want you to tell me, I'm going to read off 10 signs to you. Make a mental note as I go through these about how many of these statements you relate to, and then share the number in the chat. Okay, there's going to be 10 of them. So, number one, I'm deliberate and always think before I act. Number two, I have an inner critic that never takes a day off. Number three, I'm genuinely empathetic. Number four, I can sense conflict before others. Number five, I'm easily overwhelmed by my emotions. 6, I'm highly driven and ambitious. 7, I've struggled with burnout in the past. 8, I find it difficult to set boundaries. 9, I would call myself a perfectionist. And 10, I tend to get stuck in analysis paralysis. So, how many of those 10 did you relate to? Go ahead and type the number in the chat here. And hello from Canada, India. So wonderful to have you all here. Malaysia, I love what a global community we have. I see 10s coming in. So a lot of you relating to all of those that I mentioned. Well, if you checked off more than half of those, then you can confidently call yourself a sensitive striver. And I want you to know this, that it is possible to enjoy your success without the stress, the self-doubt, the overwhelm that you're experiencing now. And as the first person to research, describe, work with leaders and professionals like yourself that have this combination of traits, I can tell you that when sensitivity and ambition come together, it can be really tricky. So many sensitive strivers, whether they come through Resilient or I work with them one-on-one, they come to me feeling extremely confused, overwhelmed. They blame themselves for the struggles they are having. They think I'm somehow broken, defective, I'm inadequate, or I'm not strong enough because they secretly struggle with so many of these challenges. Well, it seems like everyone else around them has it all together and has it all figured out. If you have ever felt that way, type me in the chat. Now, as true high achievers, these people come to me with so many things they want to change and improve about themselves. But that can quickly become very paralyzing and very demoralizing because you don't know where to start and it all feels like too much. That how could I possibly accomplish this all? Why would I even try? So what do? How do you identify what is the biggest source of your self-doubt and stress? And how do you figure out what to prioritize first? Okay, I see a lot of you were relating to that. Kevin, Charles, Steve, Kuda. So how do we identify what the biggest source of our self-doubt and stress is? Well, that is where the Strive diagnostic comes in. So through my research, coaching, backed by what we know about the science of sensitivity and high performance, I've discovered that as a sensitive striver, you have 6 qualities that form the acronym STRIVE. STRIVE. Okay? Now, when these qualities are in balance, they can be your biggest superpower. But when they are out of balance or you are overusing them, they can quickly get in your way. They can become a liability. And that's where the stress, the self-doubt, overwhelm, everything that you're experiencing comes in. Okay? So the Strive diagnostic, which I will go over with you in just a minute, can be such a powerful tool to understanding yourself as a sensitive striver. So not only does it really help with your level of awareness, but it also helps you dimensionalize your traits so that everything doesn't feel like such a big mess, right? And what's more is that it helps you replace self-blame with acceptance and more objectivity. Because when you know that your challenges are a result of your wiring, and that there are practical, actionable ways that you can work with these qualities and rebalance them, it really introduces an entirely new sense of control and confidence. Okay. So, this framework underlies everything we do inside of Resilient. We use the diagnostic to give you a personalized report showing your areas of strengths and your areas of opportunity so you have real objective data. Okay. And the best part is that as you go through the program, you will see how you are improving in each area. We've actually made a huge upgrade to the program for this round where we have a fully digitized version of this diagnostic. So you actually do get a literal personalized report with your results. And this framework, this knowledge can truly be a life changer. And you don't have to take my word for it. We've had hundreds of sensitive strivers go through Resilient. You can take a look at the dozens of testimonials we have on our page. I'll make sure I put the link here in the chat. But let's dive into that Strive framework, okay? STRIVE. I'm going to take you through each part of this. All right, so first is sensitivity. So that's our S, sensitivity. Now, you might think, well, duh, I knew I was sensitive. That's really not that surprising. But what's important to realize is that the Strive quality of sensitivity is slightly different. What we're referring to here is sensory sensitivity, which means having a nervous system response to what's happening within and around you. So, when your sensitivity is unbalanced, you may feel anxious, you may feel worked up or fearful a lot of the time. You may have trouble slowing down to relax. You may feel like your body is in a constant state of tightness, tension, gripping. All right. Now, when sensitivity is well balanced, you're able to be calm, composed, even when you feel put under pressure. You're able to get enough downtime and rest, and you're able to use your intuition as a decision-making tool because you can actually be more in touch with yourself. You can hear yourself think and what has to come through. So, to show you a story of what I'm talking about, I want to tell you about one of my clients who I'll call Kate. Now, she was just starting a new role, greater responsibility, more visibility, which meant more meetings, right? And she dreaded meetings, especially those where she had to deal with people in higher authority, with more senior leaders. And Kate was someone who never felt comfortable speaking up. There was always so much for her to process mentally, emotionally, and really that fear of sounding stupid overwhelmed her a lot. She would freeze under pressure or she would launch into this tailspin when she did have to say something. Now, Kate used many of the tools we teach inside of Resilient to be able to regulate her nervous system, to balance her sensory sensitivity, to lower that sense of overstimulation and be able to stay calm even in those higher pressure situations. And with that newfound groundedness, Kate was able to lead a company-wide all hands. She received a lot of positive feedback. And most importantly, she felt more secure. She felt more balanced at work, which was something that she hadn't experienced in a long time. Okay, so that's our first Strive quality, sensory sensitivity. All right, let me see what is resonating with people. All right. Yeah, Ember was saying constant state of tightness and go all morning since 3:30 a.m. nonstop all day. Absolutely. I would say that definitely leads to unbalanced sensitivity. Okay, so remember as I'm going along, please help your neighbors out. Type any important takeaways you're hearing or what is resonating with you in the chat. So let's move on to our second Strive quality, and that is thoughtfulness. So as a sensitive striver, your thoughtfulness means that you are self-aware. You're able to see nuances in situations around you. And this is all about your ability to think deeply, to be observant and perceptive. Because as a sensitive striver, you're likely exceptionally contemplative, you're reflective, you're intuitive. Okay. But on the flip side, if your thoughtfulness is unbalanced, You get stuck in overthinking, worrying, indecision. Okay. So when thoughtfulness is unbalanced, it may look like second guessing yourself or not being able to make simple choices. You may be overly self critical, right? You're almost so self aware that it gets in your way. You see every mistake you make. Or you get so bogged down in analysis paralysis and unnecessary details because you're thoughtful to an extreme. Okay. But when your thoughtfulness is balanced, you're able to think deeply, to act purposely, because you're able to pull out what is most important and think critically about that. You're able to practice constructive self talk because you're thinking deeply about situations, but more objectively. Okay. And you're able to offer creative, innovative solutions and ideas that other people miss. Now, my client Malik is a great example of how to balance thoughtfulness. When we first started working together, he overthought everything: emails, conversations with his colleagues, his value at work. He would replay scenarios in his head over and over and over. He'd think about the feedback his boss gave him, what he could have done differently. And after applying many of the tactics we talk about inside Resilient, he was able to let go of his rumination and that negative self talk. He was more efficient with his work. He was not getting distracted by all of the chatter inside his head. And Malik saw this in the fact that he received a double promotion. He skipped a level because of his increase in performance at work. All right. Okay. So let's see here. Amber was saying emails are the worst, especially when you are only writing 2 sentences and it takes 25 minutes. As a writer, I feel that deeply. There's a saying that if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. It is very difficult to be concise, right? So yes, writing those 2 sentences and getting them right, making sure they're powerful is really difficult. Okay, so let's move on to our third strive quality, which is responsibility. So we have sensory sensitivity, thoughtfulness. Now we're on to responsibility. And that's that sense of commitment and accountability you have towards everyone and yourself. Because as a sensitive striver, I'm willing to bet you are trustworthy, you are dependable, you can always be counted on to follow through. But at the same time, you probably can't bear letting people down, even if that means you have to sacrifice yourself. So, unbalanced responsibility can cause you to swoop in and fix situations because you want to keep people happy. You may feel guilty that you are never doing enough, and you may struggle to say no or ask for help. Okay. But when responsibility is balanced, you're able to be dedicated to your work and have strong boundaries. You're able to delegate effectively, ask for help, empower other people to solve their own problems instead of you solving them for them. And you're able to maintain a sense of excellence without caving to pressure from others, comparison, or falling into people pleasing. Now, a cautionary tale about unbalanced responsibility: it can land you in the ER. And I don't mean to scare you, but I do want to tell you a true story about one of my clients. I've changed her name for the purposes of this. I'll call her Rebecca. Now, she worked so hard that she ended up in the hospital with a heart issue. She was regularly working 10+ hour days as a program manager in the pharmaceutical industry. And she was an individual contributor. She didn't manage people, but she was always saying yes to demands from other teams. And she loved her job. She wanted to be helpful, but it had become so bad that it was literally killing her. Now, through our work together, she learned how to say no, how to set boundaries diplomatically, and how to delegate more effectively, even though she didn't have a team, right? And now Rebecca, I'm very glad to report, is healthier. She's working fewer hours. She takes breaks. She's disconnecting from work. She's even enjoying new hobbies. She was telling me that she had joined a singing group. She's working out more. She's volunteering. All right. So those are our first 3 strive qualities: sensory sensitivity, thoughtfulness, responsibility. Let's move on to our fourth one, which is inner drive. That refers to your internal motivation to pursue goals, achieve more, and generally just be the best version of yourself. You may not be motivated to climb the ladder in the traditional sense, but you always want to be better for the sake of your own self growth. Okay. Now, many sensitive strivers spend their entire professional lives in a sort of performance. We show up as the people we think we need to be in order to be successful. And all of that leads us to try to achieve self esteem and self confidence by chasing external validation: gold stars, A pluses, promotions, accolades, approval from other people. I see so many times that people, sometimes unconsciously, believe that if we could just put in more effort, right? If we could just do more, try harder, accomplish more, then I'd feel good enough. I'd reach a point where I feel like I am enough, right? So we work longer and harder in order to compensate for our perceived failings. How many of you are guilty of that? Just type yes in the chat. So this perfectly describes what happens when your inner drive is unbalanced. You may overwork yourself to the point of burnout and exhaustion. You take on more goals than you can handle, and then you feel bad about yourself because you're not achieving them all. And we have a high attachment to outcomes and external rewards and validation. Okay, I see, yes, a lot of you resonating with that. Now, on the other hand, when your inner drive is balanced, you're able to focus on continually learning, growing, advancing for the sake of it. You create goals that are realistic, attainable, personally meaningful, not what you should do. And you are able to make consistent progress, not just big bursts and then nothing for months, and manage your energy more effectively. So I want to drive this home with the story of a client who I'll call Marissa. And she was one of those people, much like many of you are saying in the chat, she never felt like she was doing enough. She worked in a big media company where she was not only vice president, but she also took on a lot of extracurriculars, running ERG, mentoring junior employees. And outside of work, she was busy learning new languages, doing karate, and the list goes on and on. So it was clear Marissa had a ton of ambition, but she set the bar sky high for achievement. She felt like she was always falling behind. She always needed to be accomplishing more. And any free time that she had to be productive, right? It couldn't just be for the sake of it. And as you can imagine, this was all very stressful and exhausting for her. Now, Marissa used the tools that we teach. She focused on what meaningful success looked like to her, not what she thought she was supposed to do and achieve, right? And now she is free from that self-imposed pressure to be perfect, to feel like she has to find a point where she'll be enough. Is it 100% every day? No. But her work feels easier. She feels more at peace and feels more relief, frankly, on a daily basis. All right, so on to our fifth strive quality, vigilance. Vigilance is all about your awareness and your attunement to subtleties in your environment. So you are probably a great listener, you are attentive to other people's needs, and you sense subtleties in your environment, whether that's reading between the lines, understanding a person's emotion, sensing a shift in their body language, being able to walk into a meeting, even if it's over Zoom, and feel there's a general vibe or tone happening here. Okay. So overanalyzing the behavior of others, though, and being on high alert can be very draining. I always like to say it feels like you have your antenna up, constantly scanning for information. And if there's anyone else here who is old enough to remember the days when phones had actual antennas, then you remember that that could drain your battery very quickly. It's like having a lot of apps running in the background. And that's what unbalanced vigilance is like. You feel highly responsive and deferential to the needs of other people. You read in to situations and interpret something bad is going to happen, even when there's nothing to worry about. It's like your danger sensing is on high alert. And you're passive. you're afraid to take chances that might advance your career. You want to play it safe. Now, when your vigilance is balanced, you're able to have attunement and empathy with other people that creates strong relationships, but doesn't lead to you minimizing or sacrificing yourself. You're able to assess risks, but make good judgment calls and take a chance where you need to and you've determined it's right. And probably most of all, you're able to channel your attention inward. You're not just paying attention to what everybody else thinks, what everybody else cares about, to the point where you have no sense of self. You have no idea what you want because you spent your life focusing on what everybody else wants. You're able to turn that attention inward, celebrate your successes, pursue what's right for you. And I wanted to tell you the story of Max, who is a great example of how to rebalance vigilance. Now, when Max took over his family business from his father, he had a lot of shoulds in his head. He had a lot of preconceived notions about what a leader should look like, sound like, act like. And he assumed that a good leader was someone who was aggressive, dominant, very task oriented and outcome oriented, which as a sensitive striver wasn't his natural style. And Max also believed that as the head of the company, people needed to like him, right? If they were going to work for him, they needed to like him. Unfortunately, this led him to avoid facing some pretty big staffing issues. And because he swept things under the rug, it only made problems worse. And there were several very sticky situations, and one of them resulted in some major cash flow issues that put the company in a very tight situation. Now, when Max started using the strategies we talk about in our coaching, he was able to let go of those unhelpful assumptions, boost his confidence in his own convictions, to discover his own leadership style, to learn how to trust his gut, even if it was different from his father's or what he thought should happen. And since then, Max's company has had their most profitable year ever, and they are also preparing for an international expansion. All right. That brings us to our final strive quality, which is emotionality. And that is the degree to which you experience and you express your feelings. Emotionality, I would say emotionality and thoughtfulness tend to be two of the biggest challenges for sensitive strivers to balance, because you are naturally someone who is a deep feeler. You tend to have more intense, complex emotional responses. So when emotionality is unbalanced, you may get derailed by intense, unpleasant, unhelpful feelings for hours or sometimes even days. You may pretend everything's fine while inside you are simmering. And you may feel like you're at the whim of just ever-changing feelings, like you're just jerked around by your feelings. But when your emotionality is balanced, you're able to take in and experience more positive emotions, joy, pride, satisfaction, and to do that without guilt. You're able to effectively process, work through difficult emotions to take constructive actions. And I want to pause on that one for a second, because it is never my goal to have someone not experience hardship or difficult emotions. It is my goal to help you recover from them more quickly, because the first is not possible. You are a human. As someone who is more sensitive and someone who is pushing themselves in their career, you're going to experience hard things. And you can't just bypass that. You have to learn how to confront that and how to respond with strength and with courage and go back to equilibrium more quickly. Okay. And last, when emotionality is balanced, you're able to respond to your emotions with more acceptance and flexibility instead of resistance and shame. Not telling yourself, I shouldn't feel this way. Why do I still feel this way? I'm so weak, right? But with acceptance of, this is where I am. How do I move forward from here? So to show you what I mean, I want to tell you one last story about Tracy. And she would get defensive at the slightest hint of criticism, whether it was real or it was imagined. Now, for example, if someone would ask her for a status update, she would assume that that person was suggesting that she had dropped a ball. Or when a colleague would propose a new idea, she would assume that they were judging her for not having thought of that sooner or taken action on something sooner. And her emotional reactions were so intense that she would lose entire days to just these anger and frustration spirals. Or she sometimes would burst out in tears because she would get so emotional and didn't know how to handle it. Now, Tracy learned to regulate her responses, to put those situations in perspective, and we worked on building her inner strength and her resilience so that she wouldn't spend her days spiraling out. And now Tracy has told me she is no longer triggered by the people who used to trigger her before. She has a higher sense of her own self-worth because she feels stronger. And she had her most positive performance review yet. Those changes were being noticed by other people. Okay, so which of these strive qualities do you think you're most out of balance in? Okay, let me read those again. Our 6 strive qualities are sensory sensitivity, thoughtfulness, responsibility, inner drive, vigilance, and emotionality. So, which of those 6 qualities do you think you are most out of balance in? All right, go ahead and type in the chat. I would love to hear what is resonating with you the most. I'm also going to put a link. We have a free quiz on my website, melodywilding.com/quiz, where if you're like, I'm not quite sure where I land on this, you can take the quiz and find out. And okay, let's see here. I hear responsibility. Kevin was saying emotionality right now. Another for Carlos also said responsibility. Steve, responsibility. Catherine is feeling out of balance and inner drive. Yes. Madison was saying inner drive. Stanley, also inner drive. I am pleasantly surprised. Excellent. Okay, great. So just a reminder again, if today I gave you descriptions of each of the strive qualities, and I really wanted to walk you through examples that illustrates how these could be playing out in your own work and life. But if you want to find out where you are most out of balance, head to my website, melodywilding.com/quiz, and you can take the quiz there to find out your results. Now, if everything I shared resonated with you today, then I really want to encourage you, or invite you rather, to come check out Resilient. We offer weekly coaching with me and my executive co-coach, Wendy Carey. We have a comprehensive curriculum that is not just rambling 60-minute videos, but it is me distilling down practical, tactical action steps for balancing each of these strive qualities for you. And perhaps the most powerful part is the supportive community of other high-level sensitive strivers who can serve as your brain trust, your confidants. It's really an incredible experience to be among people who think and process the world and work the same way you do, when most of us have never had that in our entire lives. So this program is perfect for you if you want to balance your strive qualities and you want to take life-changing steps in your career while also boosting your confidence, your influence, your impact at work, and creating the inner peace you crave. That is our top goal for people who join this program. And as I mentioned, early enrollment in Resilient opens in just a few weeks. Now is the time to join the waitlist. As I mentioned, the QR code is here on the screen. You can scan that to find out more information to join the free waitlist. If you're at all interested in the program, I highly recommend that you do, because there are limited spots and we open enrollment to the waitlist first. So you get first dibs on those spots before anyone else, as well as access to the special early enrollment discount. If you have any questions about the program, do not hesitate to reach out to me. You can find me at hello@melodywilding.com. You can message me here on social media. But I hope you enjoyed this today. I would love to hear from you in the comments about what resonated with you the most, or what other questions you have. And I will be back on Thursday with my wonderful colleague, Teresa Voza, and we are talking more about people pleasing, burnout, and boundaries. So you definitely don't want to miss that. So make sure you are following me so you get notifications about that. All right, everyone, take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you very soon.